Okay, we will call to order our Planning Commission meeting here, City Hall, Wednesday, October 18th, 2023 at 6 p.m. James, would you please call the roll?
Duval. Gorham.
Here.
Grunenwald.
Here.
Marone. Norwood. Stangline.
Here.
Yeager.
Yes. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. We have a pretty winnowed down agenda here. Would anyone like to approve this agenda for this evening?
Make a motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we have an agenda. First thing here is the approval of the minutes. I'm going to go ahead and vote on this one just because I did watch the video, so I think I can vote on the minutes. But at first, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Did I do a good job, Kevin?
I think you did a fantastic. I almost didn't come tonight.
That's all I had.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good. We've got our minutes approved. Right on to number 6. This is our unfinished business. This is a review of the draft ordinance for our short-term rentals. Mr. Kramvik, I'm assuming you want to give us the kind of the rundown here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the last Planning Commission meeting, Commission members reviewed the entire draft ordinance that staff had provided, made comments on it, and based on that, staff did make changes, especially when it seemed like there was consensus among Commission members upon a change within the code. With that, though, staff did indicate what the revisions were, and then at the bottom, we have discussion topics, so I figured we'd kind of go one by one through these discussion topics, just to make sure if things maybe need to be edited, and just kind of where we're at as a consensus with some of these discussion topics, and we'll go from there.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Kramvik. So would you like for us to just kind of follow the discussion topics one by one?
Yep, I think that's what we'll do, kind of go one by one on those.
All right, very good.
So first one is, should VDUs require the property owner to reside in the city limits of Brainerd or have an emergency contact in the city of Brainerd? So kind of options there. I guess the third option would be to keep it as is, which relies on the rental license. Staff did research. The previous one just did rely on the rental license as well, which essentially makes the property manager reside within 50 miles of the city limits of Brainerd. So kind of, I guess, three options there. Do they have to reside in the city limits of Brainerd, which came up at the last meeting? Does an emergency contact have to be in the city of Brainerd? Or do we just rely on what was used in the past? And kind of open it up to commission members.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for James? All right. All right. Well, with that, I'm just so you guys know, I was not at this meeting, so I will not be doing any Monday quarterbacking of the work. I think you guys all did a great job here, and I did listen through, but I'll be looking for you guys to kind of drive this conversation, as I don't want to be the guy who comes in missing the original meeting and with all the great ideas of what should be changed, and I certainly don't have any anyway. So, James, please.
And I guess I did have one thing to add to that. I passed out some additional information on conduct on premise from the rental code. So just want to make people aware also what's in our rental code. So if there are noise disturbances, and potential illegal activity or anything like that, police department can, review that. If it's severe enough, it could be brought right for a revocation of a rental license, which would then stop the interim use permit as well. The other, there's also a process to, if it's a minor violation like a noise violation, maybe they'd set up some type of plan with the property manager or owner for it not to happen again. And if it happens in subsequent times, then again, it could be potentially brought before city council for revocation of a rental license. So there are some options there. If there's, and conduct on premise, the police department does let the community development department know when there are issues with that. So just wanted to provide a little bit of additional information on kind of what the city has for management procedures as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, James. So on the first one here, the basic idea behind this is that you don't have a corporation, some out-of-state corporation buying up houses and then turning them into short-term rentals. So I'll just ask you guys if anyone wants to discuss this. Do we have any thoughts on whether we care whether it is a person who actually lives in the city or whether it's somebody who lives within a certain area, a contact person? How do we manage that and all of the above? But I think the basic idea is that you have somebody who's close by who has a vested interest in the short-term rental and isn't a gigantic corporation.
I really don't think that the owner would have to be relocated within the city of Brainerd. I think how it was set up before 50 miles is close enough, in my opinion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I like number one. I think the notion behind number one was a way of putting the reins on the short-term rentals and making it something that is contained and within the community. I like the notion. I wouldn't be averse to seeing it expanded a little bit beyond city limits of Brainerd. I think Baxter counts too, and I think we could maybe come up with some sort of BLA definition, right? What that would be. But I personally like the notion of it myself.
Sure.
I mean, I think also, as long as I'm on a roll, there's a big difference between having the property owner and a contact person. Contact person, that's just a corporation could hire any contact person within 50 miles. That means you could be in, I don't know, let's say you could live in Breezy Point and you could rent and manage properties all over the place.
Right.
I think that's at least
Getting away from
what we're trying to do.
Sure.
So those are my thoughts.
Very good.
I agree with the idea of having it be the owner rather than just a contact person. A property manager is just a title, but it could be a little bit closer to what we're going for. I really don't care whether it's city limits, 50 miles, 5 miles. I mean, I wouldn't want to go more than 50 miles, but how that plays, like whatever is easiest for people to understand and comply with on that. City limits is kind of hard for some people.
Right.
Because it's confusing in places. So I don't really, I'm not tied to any specific border, but within some area.
But did I hear you correct that you are thinking that it should be owner, not a contact person? Is that right?
Not just a contact person. 'Cause
agree.
I don't want them to have just a phone number that
Correct.
they.
Because to me, the loophole there is a corporation could still buy these all up and then hire a local company to manage them, and they've basically circumnavigated the entire purpose of what we're trying to avoid here.
But even if they're managing them, that's different than just having a contact person too,
Yeah.
which I think is even less.
Sure.
But yeah, I think I'd prefer owner, but I could probably be convinced to go to property manager. But contact is
Understood.
not enough.
Mr. Kramvik.
Yeah, and just to be aware, property manager. So pretty much all of our short-term rentals right now have a property manager that the owner probably does reside out of the 50-mile radius.
Oh.
So it would probably essentially delete all of the interim use permits that we do have right now, just so
If we said that it was owner,
if it was owner within 50 miles, just so Planning Commission is aware.
Mr. Chair, I've got
Yes.
a couple questions for James. How many permits would that, are we talking like 10 permits, 20 permits? Just trying to get a sense of how many permits would be affected by the owner change.
Probably about 7 or 8. Actually, so there is one that I can think of that would be homeowner occupied within the area.
Okay.
And this is for VDUs, just to be clear as well. So
And then we had 3 distinctions. We had VDUs. What were the other 2?
then there was
Owner-occupied option?
accessory home share,
Yep.
and then there was, you remember what the other one is, Dylan?
When they're on vacation.
Yeah, let me go to the
Right,
actual.
the owner is doing it and they're gone.
And then the accessory vacation dwelling unit, so kind of 3 tiers.
So really VDU though, that's the one we're really kind of focused on.
That's the one that they could rent out all year.
Yep.
Yep.
What is your, one more question. What is your experience with, who are the property managers? Is it like one company that's doing a lot of it, or is it just kind of a patchwork?
Kind of a patchwork right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
I-
Yes, please.
I think, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think several of the managers that we have had come before us, they only have one in Brainerd, but they have other ones elsewhere that they are managing. That's what they're doing, but there's just one in the city of Brainerd for now.
Right. Understood. Okay, again, I guess I'm probably leaning towards, I like the idea, I love the idea of a manager, but it seems highly restrictive, or excuse me, an owner. I like the idea. I guess it's kind of getting to what our ultimate goal is with these vacation units. Do we want it to be a really elite, very few of these, very few qualify for them, and there's just a few of them, or do we want it more open, a little more open so that we can have more of these? I guess I'm okay with either. I don't really, I'm with you. I could be kind of convinced to go either way, but I would like to see, go ahead.
And we do have provisions later on that an individual owner or LLC can only have one of them within the city of Brainerd. So there are kind of separations for that potentially as well. We'll discuss that part later.
Gotcha.
Didn't we discuss about having a limited or a set number of these type of dwellings within the city? And then there would be a waiting list if,
Yep. So we'll discuss that as well. Right now we have it set at 20. So we'll kind of see. Do I have that in here as a discussion topic?
I didn't think it was on the.
I didn't see it. It seemed like there was kind of a consensus, but we could talk about it right now.
Sure, let's do it, yeah, because that might be a factor to this,
Yep.
right? Go ahead, yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, so right now we have a limit of 20, and then specifically 10 within the contemporary neighborhood districts, and then 10 within the traditional neighborhood districts. So, does the cap need to be higher than that? Later on, if we do see that, we're kind of maxed out at 20, we're starting to potentially, dig into our housing issues, and maybe that's not quite of a problem. That could always be raised from 20 as well. Right now, we don't get that many calls, so 20 probably wouldn't be an issue at this time, but Planning Commission could definitely talk about that as well.
I think that's a great number to start with anyways.
The 20
Yeah.
total?
Just a super quick question. How many dwelling units do we have? How many houses are there in Brainerd? Like a couple thousand, 3,000? I'm just trying to get a sense of a percentage here.
Yeah, we're probably at least over a couple thousand.
Over a couple thousand. So
Yep.
we're talking about 10%? No, we're talking about 2%. Okay. I think I can live with that number.
I also feel like it would be much easier to raise that number than to lower it, so
Yes.
Very, very true.
starting at 20 and seeing how this goes.
That makes some sense.
Yeah.
So,
So, go ahead.
knowing that, it would make it very difficult if you go back to the beginning where we started. It would make it difficult for like the corporate types to come in and just start buying homes and
Yeah.
setting them up that way.
There's
with
only
that
20 in the
limit, so.
entire, yep. Gotcha. So are we feeling like we're okay with the 50-mile radius and a representative here? Or do we want to fashion James or give James some direction to tighten this a little bit? Because I'm hearing a couple different things up here.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the challenge is we want to make this less than, we want to put a little bit of responsibility here. I don't think we want to say, what is your definition of a property manager? I don't think we want to create that, but I do think we want to make sure this is a person who isn't just a contact person for 25 different properties, right? So that's the trick, is to not be so restrictive, yet have accountability.
Sure. You want to pitch an idea?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm cogitating over here.
Because there's the other side of it too, is that if, that I always think about is, I probably ultimately care much more about how it's being maintained, its effect to the neighbors, than who is actually the person who's owning it and running it, right? I care way more about behavior than I do of whose name's on the papers. Yes.
And
please.
one thing we could potentially do as staff is just part of this, if, we'd certainly check to see what distance people are at, that's pretty easy. But, receipts showing that somebody's actually being paid to be a property manager rather than just writing a friend's name down as an emergency contact, I think that, something that could be used. Because property manager setting up, making sure the yard's cleaned up, making sure that, the interior's cleaned after things are done. So they're getting paid for that service. So that's something staff could just verify through,
Sure.
a payment receipt to
Or
the
a direct
company.
relative of something,
Yep.
because I think that would happen a lot too. The owner doesn't live here and it's their kid who takes care of the property
Yep.
up here or whatever, so.
They'd have to understand that there's certain criteria to have these homes. If all of a sudden they're getting a lot of calls from the police, a lot of 911 calls or complaints from the neighborhood, that they potentially could have that license taken away.
Yeah, and exactly, that's right to my point too, is I think we care way more about behavior than anything else. We have examples of people who own their houses in Brainerd and are horribly maintained, kept, and so forth. And then we have people who rent houses who are exemplary, who are, the exact opposite. So it really just comes down to that person running it, so.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I think I can sum up. I think the two concerns, the bigger concern for me is, the erosion of our housing base. I think we've kind of reined that in pretty good. I'm less concerned about the enforcement of the rules because I think we've got good people enforcing the rules. I think we're going to be okay with that. So then we just have to build consensus around some of the points here, I guess. And I think we're getting a little closer.
Yeah. You want to take should we talk about the property manager first? We're okay with a property manager and that dialogue working with kind of what we just had? It's got to be somebody who's either paid, a relative. We only have 20 of these, so it's not going to be that difficult for James to just make a call. What's going on? This is what it is. This is what this one looks like, and make decisions from there. It's not like we're going to have 500.
Mr. Chair, could we say either kin, either a relative or a compensated employee?
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Okay.
Got that one?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if we want them to be necessarily an employee, but a compensated person, because
I'm getting at.
they could be a contractor,
No,
not gonna be an employee.
And then with the gig economy and the
Yeah.
way that goes, we're not looking for W-2 or,
Yeah.
pay stubs.
Yeah, I think that gets us around having a vested interest in it for sure. Okay, so
That
we're
sounds
good on
good,
that
yep.
one. And how about the 50 miles?
Just trying to imagine what's important about 50, Mr. Chair. I'm just trying to think of that. I think we want somebody who can get here quickly. I think that's a factor. I don't think we're trying to eliminate anybody specifically, but I guess 50 is as good as anything unless somebody has a better way to define it.
I think it's an hour drive if you're 50 miles out, and that's probably the,
Yep.
And the radius creates some accountability, right? You have somebody who can call, they can get there. It's not like, oh yeah, we can't, I'm based out of Atlanta. We'll do what we can do. We'll see what we can do, So I think I'm good with the 50.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. All right. Let's move on to number 2 here. This is, should accessory home share short-term rentals allow for more than 21 days of rentals per year?
And this was kind of considered with the last one as well. If we were going to, kind of make some additional restrictions, do we allow people who live at their homes to rent out for more days potentially, or it's their maybe vacation home during the summer, they rent it out during the wintertime. So we just did look at, this is what Duluth has for theirs, and we kind of use that one as well as St. Paul. So I don't know if it should be increased potentially to a little bit more. There's, houses that people may come up during the summertime and want to rent out in the winter, or I guess vice versa. But there is no limit to this one, to the number that can be issued within the city limits of Brainerd. So that should also be kind of part of the consideration. And the other part to it, should they, just simply reside at the residence, or should the property be required to be homesteaded? And that's kind of the other question.
All right, we'll take these one at a time. Which one makes sense to tackle first? The 21 days?
Maybe the
and then
21 days,
homestead?
yep.
And 21 days, we got this model from Duluth, you said?
Yep.
Okay. And is that, out of the ones that we looked at, is 21 in the middle? Is it towards the longer side? Is it towards the shorter side? Is it 28? I know there's a lot that are at 28 days as well.
Yeah, 28's kind of the threshold. Once you're beyond 28 days, then you can essentially be registered as a regular rental unit. The 21 days, there's also some stipulations we took from Duluth that I think you can rent it out from like 3 to 7 days, something like that. So there's some other stipulations in there as well. You know, you take, you know, maybe an example of somebody that lives here during the summertime, maybe has a place in Arizona as well. They homestead the one in Arizona, want to rent it out during the wintertime to maybe traveling nurses or something else. You know, should that be a VDU because they could be renting it out quite a bit during the wintertime and, you know, count towards one of the 20? Or should they be allowed to maybe rent more than 21 days as part of, I mean, it'd still be an interim use permit, so there's still kind of checks and balances with that part of it. But that's what this one's kind of made for. Or, you know, in an instance that the Hawkins Drive one that we looked at, they use that one kind of throughout the year, and then when they'll rent it out when they're not in this area. So, you know, kind of, does it have to be homesteaded? Does it not have to be homesteaded? And then should it be more than 21 days?
Sure. Anybody have any thoughts on the 21?
Mr. Chair, I have no strong feelings on the 21 necessarily.
I don't see a reason. I mean, if we want to move it up to 28, that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
I could even see longer to allow for those snowbirds that are, but I'm not gonna try and convince you of that.
Right.
I don't feel that strongly about it either.
And because
But I
these are
feel like
interim-
3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these are interim, we have the ability to keep working on this if we start to develop problems down
Right.
the road. It's not like this is going to be set, and whatever the decision is, we got to live with it for the next 100 years. So I think I'm fine to just start at 21, see how it goes. And again, kind of the point of it'll be easier to make it longer than it will be to make it shorter. That'll be come with less resistance.
I agree with that, Mr. Chair.
Very good. 21 is good. All right. How about the homestead versus non-homestead? This is an interesting.
I like it homesteaded.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning
like it.
also, but
Mr. Chair, homestead too, because that means you have skin in the game and you're not just taking a rental property and saying, you know, I can take that rental property and get rid of my regular tenants. And I can bring in these vacation people and charge them twice as much. So yes.
Okay.
how would the homestead affect anyone now that we know of that is, do we have any that you know of now that this is going to be a bad deal for them that is ringing any bells?
Nope.
Okay.
So
Good on the
yeah,
homestead?
it'd be
I'm
you know
fine with
potentially one like you know I look at the Hawkins Drive one. They'd just be simply a VDU because they'd be you know more than the 21 days per year.
Right.
So it really wouldn't affect any. If we max out at 20 and you know somebody again lives here for 6 months and then somewhere else for 6 months and they want to rent it for more than 21 days, that's where you know we could review the ordinance again.
I think generally we're on the right track of being more restrictive with this to start and then loosening it as we go versus the opposite. So, okay, we're good on that one. We'll move on to should only one VDU be allowed per property owner and only one VDU allowed for multifamily building or per multifamily dwelling? Talk us through this one just a little bit, James.
Yep. So this is something that was out of, I think, more of the St. Paul code, and something that seemed the commission was, you know, interested in. You know, part of what this does is stop, you know, large corporations from coming in and, you know, buying up six of them to use as vacation. As essentially VDUs. So only allowing one per property owner, you know, could stop that. Also, you know, you're not taking over a multifamily building with all short-term rentals as well and leaving it for workforce housing. So that was taken out of the St. Paul one. And, you know, I did write on here as well, it would affect one of the current property owners that has and there'd be Rick Badeau, and he's come through for 2 IUPs at the I think it was a 4-plex that was on South 6th Street, and then there's one up in North Brainerd as well. So just want to make the commission aware that there is an effect to the ones that are currently out there, but commission did seem interested in this item and potential ordinance language as well.
Sure. Any thoughts, anyone? The one per property owner definitely feels more restrictive and feels like you have way more in the game here, and you're turning this it makes it harder to turn this into a little cottage industry into our neighborhoods, right? Which is my whole issue with this all along has been, okay, we got to be careful this doesn't begin to feel like we're doing commercial business in a neighborhood. The entire point of having a neighborhood is it's not supposed to have businesses in it. the more you get of this in there, you're getting that type of behavior in a residence. So I'd be fine, again, I'm, on this one, I'd be fine with doing the one per property owner. I don't have strong feelings one way or another. So if someone does.
No, I agree with that, Mr. Chair. On the next question was the multifamily housing, right? Whether you can, so you have a fourplex. The notion is you could turn one of the units, but aren't we saying if it's homesteaded, wouldn't that preclude that if it's homesteaded, if we have that rule?
Well, then you'd be able to maybe add let me go down to it. So the accessory vacation dwelling, you maybe be able to add that to, if it's homesteaded and you live there, you could, potentially rent it out
AVD.
for 21 days. But you'd
the
only
AVD, yeah.
I forgot
You'd
about
only have one actual VDU that you can rent out as long as you want per multifamily dwelling unit.
Okay.
So typically a fourplex wouldn't be homesteaded either.
Right. It could, but
It could be, yeah.
I
Maybe-
think there might be some examples of that in where somebody is
Duplexes.
homesteaded and lives. I think the one actually next door to me is
Okay.
the owner lives there, homesteaded as their home, and rents out 4 of the 5 dwelling that are in there.
So there are a few out there.
Yeah, there might be a few out there.
I like both of those limitations myself.
I don't feel strongly about it, so.
I think we're good on those.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. The next one is number 4. All short-term rentals operating prior to the effective date of these standards shall be compliant with this section by January 1st, 2024. All previously issued interim permits for short-term rentals shall expire on December 31st, 2024. The idea is to make this all retroactive.
Yep, and make all of them consistent with the new ordinances.
I had some concerns about that January 1st, 2024 date because it is so close. And if we're trying to make let's pick Rick Bedell, by January 1st,
And that-
2024, or do you mean January 1st, 2025?
So they'd have to be compliant with all sections. So if we've, changed any language up based on emergency contact information, anything like that, you could have some effect then with property manager one that we've kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So we could simply put those two as the same dates, December 31st, 2024 and December 31st, 2024 for both of those. That would make sense.
Gives them a little more time.
Yeah, gives them more time to adjust to some of the things that might take more time if they have to divest themselves of one or,
'Cause the first one's only like 75 days away or something.
Yeah.
It's not very far, so.
so, or January 1st, 2025, I don't, yeah. Though that's a holiday,
Yep, nope, that makes sense.
with that one.
Guys good with that?
Good with that?
Okay. Clipping right along here, staff included the word abut to limit the rentals from operating across the street from another.
So it was brought up. We
yeah,
talked about one per block, but then it came up. Well, there could be directly across the street from one another, so this would stop it. So would Planning Commission like to add the word abut to it?
Do we have, what is our definition of abut? Is it like, if it's off by one house, is that no longer abutting?
Well, yeah, that would no longer be abutting.
What if it's half on, half off?
See, I just can't imagine 2 houses across the street abutting. I don't see that, but I think it's probably a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, or I think Chuck was talking about all 4 corners of an intersection
Oh, yeah.
could be,
So those would be abutting.
but they're abutting, so this
Yeah.
would take care of that.
So this would take care of that.
So,
I don't care. This one, I really don't. Sounds great. I think does anyone have any objection to including the word abut? Okay, very good. Does the proposed ordinance section pertain to the waiting list work?
And yeah, did you guys get a chance to review kind of the process that would go into it? We'd have, if we do reach that 20 or 10 within each zoning district, essentially they'd have to file something with our administrative specialist in the community development department. We couldn't take an application in because that actually has to be acted on. So we just essentially keep a waiting list at that point. And then we did limit it to, essentially if your name does come up, you get 10 days to essentially turn in a completed application, just so things kind of don't drag on in that sense. But just wanted to keep some wording in there so it just wasn't a free-for-all.
That's good.
I have some thoughts on this just real quickly, and always my fear is with any type of a waiting list is that to me it has to be public somehow, so that people don't think that there's favoritism somehow, somebody got budged in front of the line somehow, some way. So as long as the list can be seen,
It
by the
certainly could be
public
seen.
and where everyone is on the list and what order. If you know your number 3, you know your number 3 in line, and then your number 2, and then your number 1, not 3, 4, then 3 or something. But that's the only thing I would say is I just would want the list available to be seen somehow, so people could know where they're at on the list. That's all.
More than fair.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. You got the feedback you need here?
I think so. And then I guess if there's anything else that commission members want to bring up to discuss based on the ordinance, certainly can do that.
Yeah, these were just the question items. The other patched together ordinance is in there if everyone got the chance to read it. Again, I think we're on the basic right track of where to at least start with this and adjust from there. But James is looking for any input other than that tonight. Then we'll be passing this on to our fellows that sit at the same bench, so our fellow members, so for the ultimate
So actually,
decision.
so it'd be next planning commission will go through the
Oh,
public
that's
hearing
right.
then.
Yep, gotcha.
We're gonna need, I'm trying to think of a picture that could show those 3 different types of short-term rentals.
Yeah, with the correct, this is the most acronymically
need
laden meeting I've ever, except for the HRA. The HRA, they have the industry of acronyms. They have it down, so, but yeah, some diagrammatical type drawing, diagram of some diagrammatical, yes.
Yeah, maybe it's broken into a table instead of kind of what we have here. So that's something like that might need help.
All right, I think we're good on that, yes? Anybody? All right, well, look at that. We are, our new business has been postponed, so we're going to move on to the public forum. We'll open the public forum here at 6:32, and if anyone would like to come forward, now's the time. Do we have anyone online? Imagine that. So a couple last calls. Anybody here for the public forum? No, I see no one, so we're going to go ahead and close the public forum at the same time here, 6:32, and we will move on to staff reports. Dylan, anything?
No, not at.
All
Oh,
right.
actually, yes.
okay.
I attended the Minnesota American Planning Association Minnesota Conference in St. Cloud for multiple days last week and got a great deal of information on housing and solutions through other practitioners of planning throughout the state, which was also great because I got to talk to the person from Duluth who wrote those 3 items and compared our logic, and our logics are in line.
Oh,
So
good. Good to know.
that is my report.
All right, thank you. James, please.
Yeah, just wanted to add at the next planning commission meeting, again, we'll bring up kind of our list of items that we're working on and working through. Staff at this point is recommending, I know there's interest from the EDA for potential similar development to what we have downtown, commercial on the bottom, to residential on the top, as well as our consultants working through the EDA are pretty interested in that as well. So that'll probably be staff's recommendation, but we'll continue to talk through that and see where the commission wants to go next.
Very good. Thank you. Brent, you got anything? All right, very good. Do we have any commissioner member reports? Commission member reports.
Well, I just want to thank James for the council packets and the summaries. I think that works very well. You are doing a great job of providing those. And yeah, I think that helps council members ahead of time understand what's coming up in the packet.
I did expand a little bit on it on this last one.
Very good. Anything on this end? Please. Yeah, go for
I've
it.
got one.
Floor's yours.
I'll try to make it pretty small, but pretty short here. But So recently, last spring, I received a mailing from the HRA, the aforementioned HRA. And it was about neighborhood improvements. And it was one of those programs, a 10-year forgivable loan, just a cherry program. You know, I can't imagine anybody would ever sign on a program like that. And it looked like my neighborhood, beautiful Southwest, was going to be the target area. That's kind of what it was. It turns out we really weren't. We were never that. We were Plan B, and we probably should have never been told we were the target thing. But okay, that's my whining. But ended up having a really interesting conversation with John Schomer. Is that right?
Oh, okay.
With the HRA. And I said, well, how did you guys come up with the breakdown? You have these 20 grants. How did you come up with 12 for rental and 8 for residential? He said, because nobody wants to go through this program. And I said, are you kidding me? People don't do this? And he said, yeah, they're suspicious. They think it's a scam. He says he's gone door to door, he swears, and knocked on doors, and people say, this is a scam. And personally, as a homeowner, this blows my mind. If I could get $10,000 for new windows, I can't imagine why you would stop, and I can't imagine. So here's the point. The point of this is we have a real gap in this town between our agencies of the city and the people. There's a gap. I don't know how we solve this gap, but it just shows that, to me, that's just kind of, it shows that, I'm not going to say we're elites, but it shows that there's things operating on one circle, and then you got the reality down on the street where people are convinced that it's a scam and they don't want to be taken in. And so it's just kind of, it blew my mind. So I'm just venting here, but I just found it really disturbing that people have that little faith in government that they can't see something like this and see how it is on their side. Absolutely on their side. And so anyhow, that's all I got.
Excellent, thank you. Anything? All right, I have nothing to add either at this time, so we are going to move to item number 11, which is an adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We got one, we got a
Second.
second? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
36 minutes.